Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we will learn what is middleware and HTTP request pipeline. Middleware is one of the core functionalities of any ASP.NET Core web application. Let's understand about HTTP request pipeline. See here, I have a client here, or we can say browser. This side I have a server where our ASP.NET Core web API application is hosted. This web application has three controllers. When we send a request from the browser to the server, we generally believe that the controller action method that is going to handle the request and then we get the response. But in reality, before hitting the controller, the request has to pass through the pipeline. Once the pipeline is completed, then only it navigates the request to the corresponding controller. Let's understand about this pipeline with more detail. In ASP.NET Core web application, the request pipeline can have multiple middlewares. Let's assume middleware is a piece of code with some logic. We can insert all the codes one by one in HTTP request pipeline. Let's say request is coming from this browser to the server. First it will come to the first middleware. Definitely there will be some code. That code will get executed. If there is next method, then it will pass the execution from first middleware to the second middleware. Again there will be some code. That code will get executed. If there is next method, then the request will pass through from second middleware to third middleware. Let's assume in third middleware we don't have next method. So the code which is there in third middleware, that will be executed, and there is no next method in the third middleware. So the request will be returned to the second middleware. And if there is some code after the next method in second middleware, then those codes will get executed. Once the code executed, then the request again comes back to first middleware. Again in first middleware it might have some code. This code will be executed, and once it done, the final response sends to the client who made the request. This is how the request pipeline works in ASP.NET Core Web API application. Middleware is nothing but a piece of code, or we can say the middleware or some functionalities that we want to insert in our ASP.NET Core Web API application. Okay, here remember middleware is a piece of code that is used in the HTTP request pipeline, and ASP.NET Core web application can have n number of middleware. So based on the requirement of the application, we can add n number of middlewares. In ASP.NET Core web application, there are some built-in middleware that is already ready to use. If you want, you can create your own custom middleware. Then order of middleware matters a lot in the execution. The request pass through each middleware in the same order that we have inserted in HTTP request pipeline. Now let's see the examples of middleware. Routing. If you want to implement routing in your application, then you need to use routing middleware in the HTTP request processing pipeline. Authentication. If you want to authenticate the user, then you need to use authentication middleware. Authorize. This middleware is used to authorize the users while accessing a specific resource, exception page, and etc. Let's say if you want to handle some exception in your application, then you can use middleware to handle the exception globally. Each request and response sends through middleware. So we can simply add some codes in pipeline and we can handle the exception from one single place. Now let's go to the Visual Studio. Go to startup class. In this class, we have two methods, two important methods, configure services and configure method. This configure method is very important and we must have this method for any ASP.NET Core web application. The application can't run without this configure method. Whatever the code that we have added in this configure method is middleware. Say for example, here app.use developer exception page. This middleware is going to execute when there is an unhandled exception occurred in the application. Next, use routing. This also one middleware. This middleware is used to add endpoint routing. Then we have use endpoints middleware. Here the routing decisions will be taken using the map extension method. Remember the ASP.NET Core middleware components are executed in the same order as they are added to the pipeline. So it is our responsibility to take care when adding middleware components. I hope you understand this video. Thank you so much for watching this video.